Okay, now let us discuss about the actuator. Actuator is for linear motion, okay, linear movement, like it will go forward and come back. Okay. If we'll see in some heavy truck or even some trucks that are using for changing the bulb on the road, okay, so to make the movement, like to pull something up, it's using hydraulics, okay, hydraulic actuator. Okay, so doing linear movement, like if you want to, even in robotics arm, if you want to pull it up, like if you want to make a movement like this, you can use a actuator here. So there are three kinds of actuator. One is pneumatic actuator, one is hydraulic actuator, another one is electric actuator. Hydraulic actuator is the most popular one, but very heavy, very expensive. If you see the excavator of Caterpillar, okay, you will see a number of this kind of hydraulic actuators. Okay, very, very powerful. It can pull a lot of things together. Okay, so to perform this kind of things, hydraulic actuator can be used. In hydraulic actuator, it actually use some lubricant. Like if you have this chamber and this tiny chamber, and if you have the connection, it will need less power to push it down like one shaft. You will need less power to push it to pull it in this area. Okay, pull something in this area. But the problem is, it will pull less than the push. But the power required in this place is low. Okay, so by using low power, it's doing heavy job in this place. And it also can be used in opposite way. One kind of hydraulic motor used to push it, okay, to push the lubricant here. Okay, so this is the most popular, widely used actuator. And then the pneumatic actuator. Pneumatic actuator, you observed in the, there are some red machines that is used for changing the tire. If you'll see the bottom, you can see the pneumatic actuator. Okay, hydraulic actuator is very powerful but very expensive, heavy weight. But for pneumatic actuator, this is less powerful but less weight, less expensive. But the problem is, you cannot get the accuracy. Like in a pumper, if you press, you can press the air very easily. So air can be pressed very easily, so we cannot make the accuracy, like how much I pushed and how much it goes. Okay, so movement cannot be measured very nicely. And for pneumatic actuator, another problem is it can be rusted very easily. So should be built by that kind of material so that it cannot be rusted, like aluminium material. Okay, but for hydraulic actuator, it usually don't get rusted because it uses lubricant. It also surrounded by the lubrication, so it usually don't become rusted. But the most interesting thing is electric actuator. In robotics, we really use electric actuator everywhere, since it can be driven by 12 volt or 24 volt or 48 volt. These are very, very popular for our robotics. In our Mongoltari project, we used 4 electric actuator for this project. Okay, so even we have built a waste depositor car from our company. So in that car, we also used electric actuator, since it was electric vehicle. Okay, so electric actuator is also becoming very, very popular in this current world. Now there are 2 interesting wheels here. One is macadam wheel, another one is uni wheel. Okay, this is a bit new type of wheels. It just arrived, but it actually not used for outdoor purpose. Still, it's using for indoor and robotic game competition or something like this. Okay, you can see there are free wheels on the wheels, okay, on the outer surface of the wheel. Okay, so this is a very, very interesting wheel. Okay, the uni wheel, this type of wheel can rotate in this way, but if we push, it can go on that way also. Okay, because it has the free wheels on its body. Okay, these are the free wheels. Okay. So, if you have a triangular chassis and if you use 3 wheels on it, in any direction you want, you can move. Like to move in this direction, you will just run this wheel in this way and this one in this way. It will go in that way. Okay. If you want to move this way, you just need to run this one in this direction and this one in this direction. This wheel will not rotate. Okay. So if we do like that, it will move on that way. So in any direction we want, even if we'll move this wheel in this direction, this one in this direction, and this one in this direction, then it will start spinning on the same point. Okay, very, very interesting. But the problem is, since the outer units become stuck with some dust and some materials, so it cannot be used in outdoor surface. Okay, but for indoor, this is very, very interesting wheel. Okay, so a number of places where a number of competitions where you need to move your robot, in a moment or in any direction, you have to change the direction very fastly. In to change the direction very fastly, this kind of wheels, uni wheels can be used. Okay, and there is another mechanism wheel on which, like there are 2 mechanism wheels here. If all these wheels spin on that way, it will go forward. But interesting thing is, if this wheel spin in this way, these 2 spin in this way, and these 2 spin in this way, it will start moving on that way. And if you do the opposite, like it is spin in that way, spin in that way, spin in that way, spin in this way, then it will start moving on that way. Okay, so these are 2 very recently arrived wheels. Okay, we also use this kind of wheels, but again, these are not useful for outdoor purpose. Okay, for indoor purpose, this can be a very, very nice choice. Okay. Mindstorm is another, gaming Lego gaming tools. Okay, that can be used. You can also present your nephews and niece. They can play with these kind of things. But this is also interesting for you. We also have some Mindstorm Lego. You can see in this picture this robot. Okay, so it's a new humanoid robot. Okay, we have built it. There is a manual. We just assembled it, and this robot could work. Okay, very interesting. So at least you will have some knowledge on programming. You will have knowledge on working principle of a robot like this. But the sad part is, Lego is not allowed in any robotic competition. Okay, in every robotic competition, Lego is forbidden. Okay, so you can use it for learning purpose. Okay, but for competition, it's forbidden. Now let us discuss about recognition. Okay, we'll have another lecture on sensors, but here at a glance I'm going to tell you, like for sensing a lot of things like contact, distance, light, sound, these kind of things, we have a number of sensors. Like for contact, we use switch. To measure the distance, we can use ultrasonic, radar, infrared, this kind of things can be useful. Okay, for measuring the light level, we can use photocellular camera. To measure the sound level, we can use microphone. To measure the rotation, encoder and potentiometer can be used. To measure the acceleration, accelerometer or gyroscope can be used. To make the compass, we use magnetism. Okay, to sense the smell, a chemical reaction can be used, but actually these are not built yet. Research is going on, but there is no authentic research on it. To measure the temperature, thermal infrared can be used. Inclination, to measure the inclination, inclinometer can be used. To get the pressure gauge can be used. To measure the altimeter or altitude, altimeter can be used. To measure the strain gauge can be used. Okay, so these are some sensors can be used for measuring these kind of physical things. Okay, so here we are saying there are two types of sensors. One is passive, another one is active. Passive means this sensor doesn't require any emitter. It can sense the environment. It just senses the environment directly. It doesn't require any emitter. If you will consider active sensor, for every active sensor you need some emitter. Okay, you send some sound, then it go and come back again, and you will measure how much sound came back or after how long it came back by measuring this timing or measuring the amplitude of sound. You can measure the distance. Okay, so for active sensor you always need an emitter and a sensor, but for passive sensor the emitter is not required. Emission is coming from the environment. Like for microphone, this microphone, it doesn't emitting anything. I am emitting the sound and it's just receiving. Okay, for the camera of this phone, okay, it's not emitting any light. Yeah, I use some light in this room, or the sun is giving us the light, but the camera is not giving me the light. But if you want to use this camera at night, then it will become a active sensor. Okay, so like registers or flex sensor or the potentiometer, all these are passive sensors. Okay, but here the sonar, infrared, these kind of sensors are called active sensors. So always the active sensors require emitter. Okay, so there are two types of sensors. One is active sensor, another one is passive sensor. This is another very interesting sensor which is used in autonomous car in this current world. So SICK LiDAR is a LiDAR. Okay, so this kind of LiDAR is used for scanning the three-dimensional space. Like it just can sense the depth in three-dimensional space. Okay, this is very, very interesting and very, very important sensor for autonomous car. In our robotics lab, we have a small range LiDAR. Okay, they are using for Mongol 3, they used this kind of a small range LiDAR. Now the control subsystem. Control subsystem means processing. Okay, we will have a different lecture on processor. Okay, recent processor or processing element. But here, just a summary. As I told you before some time, for processing, for controlling, number one, we need the processor, and then we need a good algorithm. Here I am mentioning some types of processors. One is microcontroller. It's microcontroller for control algorithm. Like for this kind of devices, very simple device, this kind of microcontroller can be used. Another one is Raspberry Pi and this kind of device. Before telling about this thing, I would like to say about the microprocessor. We cannot embed any general purpose I/O or low level I/O with this computer very easily or with this mobile phone very easily. But for Raspberry Pi or Jetson TK, these kind of devices, there is a GPIO port where we can use our low level input like sensor input, switch input, or even we can control some motor by using this kind of GPIO port. This is the combination of a microcontroller and a microprocessor, microcomputer. Okay, it's becoming very, very popular nowadays. It become very, very popular, and you will be surprised to know there are some nano satellite where people used Raspberry Pi.